An interesting study undertaken by the University of New South Wales in 2004 to 2008 was the Alcohol Action in Rural Communities project. This project looked at a cluster of rural and remote communities in New South Wales that held populations between 5,000 and 20,000, and they needed to be located at least 100 kilometres away from an urban area. The research organisers recognised a deficit in knowledge around the area of community advocacy to overcome alcohol harm within their own community, and their research proposal was supported by the principles of the World Health Organisation's premise that communities require self-managed action to reduce risky alcohol and drug consumption. And they argued that all members of the community hold responsibility for change. So the study was a randomised controlled trial coupled with a cost analysis to measure the effect on social and economic capital in communities affected by high-risk drug and alcohol behaviour. The study found that the risk factors for RRR communities were that communities that lacked police had problems, communities with more general practitioners actually had problems, and this related to the wealth measure within the community. So communities that had been affected by mining change and industry change that had more free capital for purchase of alcohol and other drugs also attracted general practitioners to the communities. So it was this increase in wealth within communities that actually caused a risk factor. Communities with easy access and multiple suppliers of liquor outlets had risk, communities with higher socio-economic advantage, and communities with a lower Aboriginal people's population. And I found this quite interesting because it actually goes against a lot of the stereotype that we hear about in Australia. So being young, male and unmarried and living in rural communities increased the risk of excessive alcohol consumption. And one of the strategies they used was to target drink driving in this cohort as a risk and harm minimisation. And they found that that would be an effective intervention method in overcoming the risk of road trauma and death. Alcohol consumption paralleled the access to wealth in communities. And as discussed earlier, this is actually aligned with the rapid growth of mining industries and other rapid growing wealth generation businesses within communities. The doubling of high-risk alcohol use by women in small towns may be indicative of an underlying disproportionate risk of intimate partner abuse, and this is described by Lockie 2011, looking at social isolation, lack of services, work stress, extreme environmental and housing conditions, coupled with the separation from family, and it places vulnerable partners in high-risk situations in which alcohol use provides a crutch to overcome emotional issues, and this can often extend itself into domestic violence. So I found this a very interesting study, and it did dissolve some of the stereotypes that I was holding.